Ghana's economy, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, advanced by 4.2% from a year earlier in the first quarter of 2023, compared with a downwardly revised 3.2% rise. Though we've seen some positive signs in the economy, the country has been grappling with a severe debt overhang, soaring inflation, and continuous currency depreciation, coupled with Western living conditions for Ghanaians, prompting the business community to raise some concerns. According to Professor Bokpim, there is the need for government to find a good balance between expenditure and revenue.
The approach we have adopted is suboptimal, and that is why we agree with the private sector that the approach government has adopted under the program would disproportionately affect the private sector and undermine private sector competitiveness, and that is a cause for concern for us. And also, whilst we have advocated for expenditure cuts, the kind of expenditure cut government has done under the program is actually not the kind of expenditure cut we had wished. Okay.
What kind of expenditure cuts would you have wanted to see?
We were expecting more of the government reducing the size, merging some ministries, some agencies, departments, and then costing that. And probably we may achieve the same goal, okay, by reducing those expenditure as compared to increasing taxes, introducing new taxes, and increasing rates of existing taxes. Look at it from the approach you are coming from. We are majoring on the minor. We are not just asking reducing the number of ministers. We are talking about ministries, we are talking about departments, we are talking about agencies, and also rationalizing state-owned enterprises. In other words, the cost of our governance is just too much for our national budget to sustain.
Ghana has a large and very active consumer industrial products and services sector that provides products and services to the Ghanaian economy and the West African sub-region. This sector is poised for significant growth over the next few years, but President for the Association of Ghana Industries, Dr. Enyim Dake, maintained that the sector is battling with taxes.
Our businesses have been stressed within the context of the macro. They led to a lot of contraction into our business operation. It led to low growth. It led to low unemployment. You can also trace that it led to the distortion of original business model of processing and manufacturing, where you realize that by virtue of these macro indicators, a number of businesses resorted to importation of finished product as against processing and producing, and its relevant impact in terms of job creation, taxation, and it's exposed the country to a lot of informality. And there are consequences of a high informal sector in an economy, at least developing economy. So these ramifications are all associated with the gains and the minuses of what we've gone through over the period. And therefore, yes, our businesses are stressed, but by virtue of the IMF transaction, restored confidence to which we are planning effectively. And we look forward to other indicators that are work in progress, because the IMF process is not a one-time transaction, it's a process. We need to go back into the inflationary rates. What do we need to do regarding the inflationary rate? You asked my colleague about the effect of the inflation on our businesses. And that, I mean, every player in the space knows that the higher the inflation, the challenges it is to businesses. Nonetheless, our concern is how is Bank of Ghana managing the inflationary issues. And we know they've deployed a number of tools to aid curtail the inflationary figures. Nonetheless, the producer price index and the run-through effect of some tax adjustment has also led to the state of the inflation. We've also argued out on the inflation targeting model that the Bank of Ghana uses. Nonetheless, we still believe that there are structural rigidities that needs to be tackled. And those are the engagement we seek to see the finance minister table in the midterm budget, complementing it with that of the IMF policy and report to aid us navigate these difficult macroeconomic factors that we face.
This may be very common, but as a result of these new taxes, Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu-Abuaji, says members of the chamber have no choice than to lay off some workers.
I think government should do everything possible to bring some relief to businesses. Some taxes that I want to see, some abolished and some review. One is the e-levy. I think that the rate is too high. The other one has to do with the COVID tax. I don't know why we still have COVID tax or COVID levy as part of our tax structure, after it has been declared by WHO that COVID is not a pandemic. We have to take this tax out to bring some relief to businesses. Secondly, if you look at our policy document nowadays, there's a general statement that you are going to create a conducive environment for businesses. We all know what the conducive environment is. Low taxes, low inflation, lower interest rates, lower utility tariffs. With all the things that are happening, I don't think that we are going to have that immediately. So that general statement, I personally do not want to see it. They should come out with specifics on how they are going to create this conducive environment for businesses.
Foreign direct investments in Ghana amounted to $1.88 billion in 2020, which represented roughly 2.7% of the country's GDP. Compared to 2019, the FDI inflow decreased by $2 million. Ghana's mining and agricultural sector are major areas for direct investment equity flows. Now, President for the Ghana Union Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, says all these foreign direct investments should be tied to local businesses.
What we should all know is that a vibrant private sector drives any economy in the world. So it is important that we create the enabling environment that will make businesses thrive so that we take the whole economy along. And that is what we are not getting right now. That rather the private sector is being contained and that they are unable to expand. We don't have even the space to develop and grow. And that has been the problem because the excessive taxation, this is what it does to the private sector because we are not competitive. If even we want to produce as a nation, we cannot overprice our produce. That we cannot even sell our produce to the neighboring countries because of cost of the produce like the manufacturers have been complaining about. And that's why we continue complaining about excessive taxation. And we can easily also expand the tax net without necessarily putting a lot of pressure or imposing taxes on the few that have the capacity even to grow. Because they are the identified ones who can actually pay the taxes. But when we do that, we are only trying to stifle the growth of those industries which otherwise will be the driving force of our economy. Now we're talking about importation. Importation, I have a serious problem with importation because if we do more importation, it means that we are not helping our local manufacturing companies. We are not even trying to be self-sufficient.
But that is what you do.
Yes, I like that. But let me also tell you that the import that happens in this Ghana, you know, we do not own this economy. Ghanaians do not own this economy.
That is true.
That is a fact. The export earnings, we owe only about 60% as a nation. The rest does not belong to Ghanaians. That's why we always have the problem of foreign exchange because it goes and it does not even come because the money does not belong to us. Importation that we do, the excessive importation, only about 20% is for the indigents. Over 20% and the 80% all belong to foreigners. And so, whilst we are talking about exports being in the hands of foreigners, the foreign dominance of this economy, you think about communication. This communication industry, the money that goes there, even the banking is not in our hands. We talk about oil, we talk about gold and all that. we are not getting the benefit thereof. And that we have to even think about that. So if we think that we are doing excessive importation, that is not helping the economy, there's a way to do that. That's what we have to use our regulations, our investment laws, and the rules and regulations to contain excessive importation. Now we are talking about import substitution. It's in the right direction. If we are all, able to identify where we have the comparative advantage as a nation and even support those industries so that we become a hub of manufacturing of those identified products, then of course we have a way. And then, of course, government should do everything so that Ghanaian businesses or investment, foreign direct investment, should be tied up with the local businesses.
Okay.
General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Kariwa, is also calling for a national discourse to find lasting solutions to address Ghana's economic challenges.
I think that we are applying an outmoded economic development policies to try to develop ourselves. You know, if we think that we can still go with this fixation that you can generate revenue by increasing your taxes and tax the same people all the time, certainly it is telling us that it's not working. You know, yes, revenue will automatically come up, and it will come up when your capacity to generate the revenue is strengthened, you know. But it's not just about how much you are going to tax the person that would necessarily translate into your revenue. When the person does not have capacity to do what? To contain that tax. You know, so I would think that we need to review our economic policy to know that tax is good to generate revenue, but tax should not be the first call to generate revenue. It is rather to empower production to go on. Unfortunately, the figures as we receive them from the Statistical Service are not giving good account of what is happening in production. You know, all the productive areas are declining, and yet they are the very people that you are taxing. You know, and as I indicated also, it seems they are not interested in getting to those who are not paying taxes at all. You know, of course, I pay my taxes all the time. You know, and any consumption I do, I pay taxes on it, you know, and even people who I give money to feed also pay taxes on it. So all the time, even when you are sleeping, you pay tax. When you are awake, you pay tax. You pay tax in the morning, you pay tax in the afternoon, you pay tax anywhere you go, you pay tax. You know, and that is not how you can grow the economy. I think that we need a national discourse to actually fashion out an appropriate economic development policy for this country. You know, the way we are moving on and thinking that it is only taxes that can generate the revenue that we need, of course we are killing businesses all over.
In May 2023, Fitch Solutions forecast that the Ghanaian economy will expand by 2.9% in 2023 after a growth of 3.1% in 2022. Fiscal austerity, high inflation and restrictive financial conditions will dampen private consumption and investment through 2023, clouding economic growth prospects.